Hey, it's Luke from Signal Sounds, and today we're going to take a look at this, the Instruo Seashell. Quick primer for those who aren't familiar. The Instruo Seashell is a new standalone semi-modular from Instruo. Instruo are a big name within Eurorack. They're known for their high-quality analog modules, as well as their big flagship DSP-based modules like Arbor and Luba. Now, the Seashell brings both of these aspects to the table and is sort of like having a 3U or a small 6U system in the palm of your hand. So let's take a closer look. So one of the jobs that I think Seashell does incredibly well is to give you a sonic playground that's much bigger than its form factor would suggest. Now, it unlocks this sound design capability via the companion app, which you can see here. All of the physical controls that exist on Seashell exist in the software, as well as a few others that are just in the software only. Now, it's these under-the-hood features that give you the ability to make extended virtual patching possible, as well as allowing you to save and recall these patches as presets. Here is a patch that I've made that utilizes a lot of the under-the-hood features. I'll give you some sound examples and then I'll break down how I made the patch. So this patch was inspired by the paraphonic patch that Ben at Instruo made, but I wanted to take that patch and that concept and make something that had a bit more of a playability and something that was maybe a bit more interactive to how you were playing. So let's break down how we made this sound. Now, the big bulk of what you're hearing with this patch is the LFO random being sent to control the pitch of the second oscillator. Now, in this oscillator 2 section, you can see which notes get selected. Now, all this means is that the random LFO is going to get locked into these 3 notes specifically. So when it's traveling through, it's not going to give me a bunch of random atonal noise, it's going to give me just these 3 notes being triggered by the random LFO, which sounds like this. And oscillator 1 is just being triggered by MIDI, which means the root note essentially is kind of being determined by which note I play. All of this gives the effect that the LFO is playing oscillator 2 and I'm in charge of the notes in oscillator 1. There's a couple of things that make this patch a bit more interesting. You can hear that we have a flurry of notes that starts really quickly and then slowly gets slower and slower. Now, I've achieved this by sending the envelope to the LFO rate. So the initial envelope really speeds the LFO up, and then as it goes through the envelope stage, it just gets slower and slower. Now, the other thing I'm doing is I'm also using a gate stalled LFO, which is an option over here. What this means is that as long as I'm holding down a note, the LFO isn't going to start. So you can hear it by, if I do this, the LFO wasn't giving me the flurry of notes because I still had the note held down. And what this does is it allows me to interrupt that flurry of notes if I want to. It also means that I can control the speed. So if I want to play the first note really quickly, and then have the second flurry of notes feel slower, I can just play the second note with a longer start. If I go to the controller here and turn this to just regular LFO mode, you can see that it doesn't matter how long I hold down the note for, it just stays the same. So the result of this is a patch that's really fun and dynamic to play. This patch for me is a good demonstration of what I like about Seashell. It's much more modular in how you can craft sounds than most soft synths, and it has that really lovely analog sound that I've come to know from Instruo. All of this is also recallable in a way that traditional modular isn't, so I can get this sound back really easily and also share it with others. If you like the sound of this preset and have a Seashell, I'll put a link to download it in the description. This preset, as well as others, capture the essence of a much larger Instruo system. So for folks with limited home studio space, or for those who want to travel with a small setup but still have the capabilities of a larger modular synth, Seashell's pretty unmatched. Now here's another sound example where I was sending random notes in a single key, to Seashell and just recording pass after pass, playing around with settings like the filter and recording it all over USB. I then subsequently gone in, chopped up the different takes into a cool sounding pattern, and that sounds like this. Now, the next clear use case for me here is people playing live. Seashell sounds incredibly good, probably one of my favourite monosynths I've played. It's just got that rich and complex sound that you get from a CSL type oscillator, and the diffusion effect in it is really lovely and really subtle. Now, the beauty of that is that they've delivered it in a form factor that's so dinky it's not even inconvenient to bring along to a gig. Here is a backpack-friendly example of an OPXY and a Seashell, and I'm sending MIDI via USB-C directly to the Seashell. When I think about playing live, one of the main considerations I have is that I'm going to be my own roadie here, so I want it to be as small and minimal as absolutely possible. But another consideration is that I kind of maybe need it to be flexible. Maybe one live set I kind of need it to work with modular, and another one I need it to work with MIDI. There's a flexibility here because of the I/O. I could sequence it via TRS MIDI, or via USB-C, or via CV and gate, so there's a lot of options there. And it retains a playability, like I can grab and tweak the filters and the envelopes like I was doing in the last example. And you can also do some cool self-patching. So here I've got the envelope going to the FM input of one of the oscillators, and those two oscillators are synced. So it's giving me a slightly acidy tone, which you'll hear now. When I first saw Seashell, I wasn't really sure what to expect. The size, weight and cost of a similar modular setup really means that Seashell offers quite a lot in the form factor. I know there's folks that will wish it was bigger, but if you want something bigger, you can just build that in Eurorack. Seashell gives you the character of those larger setups in a much more small footprint. You can pick up a Seashell at signalsounds.com and learn more about it from the Instruo website. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.